Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
My goodness, are we already in the middle of the week already? Man, time flies. Having fun. Larry Smith here at Sports IQ. Great show here coming up. Stanley Cup Playoffs coming up, and so we've got Dave Mishkin, who has seen a lot of magical moments with the Tampa Bay Lightning, play-by-play man for the Lightning. He's showing us here. Tampa Bay will talk about they're getting into the playoffs, and a team, again, that's been right there in the Cup, several times here over the past decade. What do they have left right now? And we'll talk with Dave here coming up. Also, college basketball transfer portal. Man, some crazy numbers being thrown out, and some teams that are involved that are doing it. I mean, it's Michigan set the model last year, right? They became the first starting five all portal team. All five players were transferred in from somewhere else to win the national championship, and so we are a society of monkey see, monkey do. So Michigan has done it. So let's see if we can do it too. And so some teams throwing out some major money here over the weekend as we're now beginning the second week of the transfer portal, where players can enter the portal to begin to look for, the big bag and their next school to go to class and also play some basketball. We'll talk with Quentin Williams about that a bit later on here in the hour. I want to get his thoughts on that. Let's get some thoughts here on the NBA, the play-in tournament, giving us some exciting basketball. We said yesterday again that we're big fans of that. We just think it keeps some extra fan bases in play for a bit longer. LaMelo Ball going from GOAT to hero in a span of about 12 seconds last night. Clock winding down in overtime. Hornets clinging to a 2-point lead. Ball struggling to get the ball across half court, tossed an awful pass, picked by Tyler Hero, and then to make matters worse, Ball fouled Hero as he was shooting a three. After Hero sank all three free throws, the Hornets then a 1-point deficit thanks to Ball. Next play, Ball curling around a screen, hitting a driving layup. Hornets up by 1, and there you go. Hello, Hero. Block shot later, and the Hornets still have a chance to be the 8th seed in the East, courtesy that 127-126 win over the Heat. Now, Heat coach Eric Spoelstra also had an issue with Ball for a play earlier in the game. Ball's shot was blocked, hit the deck. Video footage showing that Ball grabbed Bam Adebayo by the ankle, causing him to fall hard on his tailbone. Bam missing more than half the game. And afterwards, Spoelstra made his feelings pretty clear about the play. Quote, "I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's funny. I think it's a stupid play. I think it's a dangerous play. Obviously, our best player was out. I'm not making an excuse. The Hornets played great. They made those plays down the stretch. We had our opportunities, but that's a shame. He should have been penalized for that. Tripping guys, shenanigans." He mentions referee Curtis Blair was there. It's his responsibility to see that. If it's not his responsibility, mentions crew chief Zach Zarba's got to see that. Somebody's got to see that. He should have been thrown out of the game for that, end quote. Well, that's Spoelstra's comments. Up next for Ball and his Charlotte teammates, a date with the loser of tonight's Orlando-Philadelphia contest for that 8th and final playoff seed in the East. In the West tonight, Golden State takes on the Clippers. The winner gets to battle Phoenix. The Suns lost to the Trailblazers 114-110 last night. So Portland gets the 7th seed in the West. They will take on San Antonio. Congratulations in the first round. Sharon Moore, that Michigan coach, that just, boy, again, one of those incidents that just every time I say, it'll be 10 years from now, and I hear the name of Sharon Moore, and I'll go, really? What were you thinking? The former Michigan football coach, Sharon Moore, sentenced to 18 months probation and a $1,000 fine for 2 misdemeanor charges related to that confrontation with the former staffer soon after he was fired as Michigan's head football coach. This is being announced by the county court there up in Michigan. In addition, Moore must continue mental health treatment, submit to drug and alcohol tests, and is not allowed to contact the victim. Last month, he pleaded no contest to trespassing and malicious use of a telecom device. Under the plea agreement, the more serious charges of third-degree home invasion, stalking, and breaking and entering, those were all dismissed. The 2 charges carried a maximum penalty of up to 6 months in jail. If you're a hockey fan looking for a team to put some money in the Stanley Cup playoffs to bet on them, we're going to help you out a little bit with the team not to put money on. The President's Trophy goes to the team with the most points during the regular season. And this year, that's the Colorado Avalanche. But did you know the President's Trophy is also kind of a curse? Not since the strike-shortened season of 2012-2013, when the Chicago Blackhawks got the President's Trophy and went on to win the Cup, has the President's Cup team won the Stanley Cup. To find a team that got the trophy and the cup in a full season, you have to go all the way back to 2008 and the Detroit Red Wings. Once again, Stanley Cup Playoffs about to start here in a few weeks. Regular season coming to an end. And joining us now, for the first time, Dave Mishkin is joining us. He's a play-by-play man for the Tampa Bay Lightning, also host of the daily Power Lunch podcast for those Lightning fans who really, enough is never enough. He is there to provide for you. Dave, is that a good way to put that?
Yes. I'm a constant provider, but I'm happy to give you a little, salt and pepper for you guys. We don't need to get too much into the weeds.
Yeah, just a little paprika on the top. It's all we're looking for.
Yeah.
Little spice. Let's talk about this team in terms of off the top here. The Lightning are a team that it seems like no matter what happens during the season, that there's this culture right now. They're always there at the end of the season. What's the magic sauce there, if you will, since we're talking culinary things? What's the magic sauce there in Tampa with this franchise and this team?
Well, I think it's a well-run organization. I mean, you hear that about a lot of organizations and a lot of different sports, but for the Lightning, it's continuity kind of from the top down. I mean, the management group has basically been constant. Julian Breezeball is now the GM, but he's been with the organization since 2010 as an assistant GM. He's been the GM for 7-8 years now. John Cooper has been the head coach since March of 2013. The core has been there varying lengths of time, but significant lengths of time. And I think they've built a culture of winning and accountability. It's not nothing to make the playoffs in the NHL. I mean, just ask the Florida Panthers. They made 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, and this year they're missing the playoffs. They've had a lot of adversity this year, but it's not a guarantee when you enter the beginning of a regular season, you're going to make the playoffs. So the Lightning under John Cooper, when he's had a full year, they've only missed the playoffs once. So that goes to what you're saying. Kind of year in, year out, they have put themselves in a position to win a Stanley Cup. Now, the last 3 years they've lost in the first round. And I think that is sticking in their craw a little bit. There are no guarantees that they're going to be able to get past the first round this year. They have a tough matchup. It is set now. Montreal will be the Lightning's first round matchup. But the expectation is that they don't want just to make the playoffs. They want to go deeper in the playoffs. This year's been an interesting year, though, because they've had as many injuries as they've had in the 1 year where the Cooper coach team missed the playoffs, 2016-17, yet they've been able to persevere. I think that's really due to a lot of players either elevating into bigger roles or new faces who have come up and have really given the Lightning a spark. So they had 2 stretches this year that really put them in position to get in the playoffs in what has been a very competitive Eastern Conference. They went 15-3 after starting 1-4-2 at the start of the year. And then they went on a 21-1 run heading into the Olympic break, and then the first game out of the Olympic break. That helped them offset a bad start, frankly, in the first 7 games and some tough sledding after the Olympic break ended. But they recovered in time to make the playoffs, and they were over 100 points again this year. But you needed a lot of points in the East this year. I mean, we're going to have teams miss the playoffs in the low, maybe to mid 90s, which is a little rare in the Eastern Conference this year. So the teams that made it earned it this year for sure in the East.
Yeah, no question. One team I follow from my years working in DC, the Capitals, and looking up, it's just amazing to see they're below that line. They're one of those teams that's, I think, 93 points, and yet they're on the outside looking in. It just seems crazy.
Yeah, so generally 96 under this current playoff format, which came into existence in 2013-14, I want to say was the first year, where you have the 4 divisions, 3 in each division get in, then 2 wild card teams, regardless of division, just the next 2 in the conference. I think there have been only 2 instances ever where a team has gotten to 96 points and missed the playoffs. And they were basically tied. Like last year, Calgary was tied with another team, St. Louis, 96 points. St. Louis won the tiebreaker. So if you can get to 96, it's usually put it in the bank. There are a lot of teams over the years that have gotten in with 91, 92. You don't have to get to 96. This year, pretty much you needed to get to 96, but 96 is still the bellwether because there's not going to be a team that's going to miss the playoffs with 96. I think the Caps could get to 95. That's their high water mark, and they're going to be, if they win tonight when they're playing, Columbus, they'll be 9th basically. in the West, it's a much different story. I mean, like, some teams are going to get in the low 90s because that conference hasn't been as strong from top to bottom. Very strong at the top, though. The three teams in the Central all have legitimate, paths if they can get out of the Central to winning the Stanley Cup. They're good enough. All three of those teams, Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota, are good enough to win the Stanley Cup. They're just in the most competitive division in the NHL right now.
Talking today with Dave Mishkin. He's the play-by-play man for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Won some championships here, and all those cup years, playing all those extra games. Did that maybe take some of the steam out of the Lightning before this year?
Well, so it's 3 straight years they went out in the first round, so they can't use that as an excuse for this year. The years that they went deep, 2 were right around COVID, right? So they won the cup in 2020 in the bubble, where there was a break. I mean, the season paused on March 12th, and then they figured out how to put on this tournament in the summer, so everybody had a break. But then they had basically 3 months of intense play. They won the cup in late September, came right back the next year in January. 2021, we started in January. That was a shortened season, but it was still a season of 56 games. They had another playoff run that finished in July, which is later than normal. And then they started on time the next year, 21-22, and they got to the Stanley Cup final. Those were 3 years of deep runs that were fairly condensed. And there may have been an after effect from that. But also they lost players. Like the cap was flat during the COVID time. So, if you have players who are due new contracts, there was no raising of the ceiling of the salary cap. So the Lightning had a lot of attrition just based on, the fact that they were working in a salary cap world that was flat. You couldn't add salary. You had to work with the salary that basically you had unless you had expiring contracts. So they lost a huge chunk off their cup teams. Even after the second cup, they got to the final the third year with a fairly different team. More attrition happened afterward. So they were still a playoff team, but they had to kind of build it back up. I think the last 2 years, part of it too, they've run into the Panthers in the first round, and the Panthers they were a championship team. Like they decisively beat the Lightning in the first round, but they decisively beat every other team that they saw, basically. So it really goes to the quality of their opponent. This year, they're not seeing the Panthers. They're seeing a much different sort of team, Montreal, that is back in the dance. They made the playoffs last year and lost to your Capitals in the first round, but they gained from that experience. But they are not like a team that's coming off a cup, right? With championship pedigree. It's a different ball game entirely in terms of, when you're facing a team like that. So to answer your question, I think it had an effect. It was part of the reason why maybe they dipped a little bit in terms of going deep in the playoffs after the 3 straight runs to the final, but it wasn't the only reason. Roster makeup had something to do with it too.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. You see him play night in, night out, Nikita Kucherov. Is there a better forward in the NHL right now than Nikita?
So it's such a broad question. There are certain things that Kucherov can do that nobody else can do, but there are certain things Connor McDavid can do that nobody else can do. There are certain things that Nathan McKinnon can do that nobody else can do. So what Kucherov does, really at a level that has been unseen since Wayne Gretzky played, is his ability to read plays at light speed. So what made Gretzky, beyond the fact, like Gretzky, he was never the best skater. He was never the best shooter. He certainly wasn't the biggest or strongest guy. But it was like if you were in a 40-yard dash, Wayne Gretzky would start at the 20-yard line. Like he was so far ahead of where everybody else was in terms of anticipating what was going to happen in a sport that moves as fast and as quickly as hockey. It's a huge advantage. Now, it's not like, he cheated. I mean, it's just his brain power was so much faster in terms of processing what was happening than anybody else. Kucherov is like that. I'm not saying Kucherov is Gretzky. Gretzky is Gretzky. But Kucherov, that part of their game, I'm not sure the NHL has seen a player that's been able to read the game as quickly since Gretzky retired.
Okay.
McDavid's not at that level with Kucherov, but Kucherov can't skate like McDavid. Like Connor McDavid is the fastest player in the NHL, but he's also the fastest player with the puck on his stick. Like it's, one thing to skate as fast as you can. It's another thing to like handle the puck and walk around guys. And I mean, that's just, I don't know that we've ever seen a player that's been able to do that. So you ask the question, like, is he the best? It's a hard question to answer. He's the best at what he does the best. And that makes him one of the best players in the NHL and usually over 100 points. He's at 130 this year, a few points behind McDavid. Usually we see in some order McDavid, Kucherov, and McKinnon now 1, 2, and 3 the last couple of years. That's the way it's been. They're all world-class players. But Kucherov does a little differently. He's not going to like bowl you over like McKinnon is like a bronco, like storming down the ice and will just like run you over. McDavid is like a Ferrari, zipping around the corners. Kucherov slows the game down almost, but he's thinking faster than anybody else on the ice and sees things before they happen better than any other player on the ice.
Yeah, so that's a great breakdown and a way to look at that when we watch him and his magic on the ice. Another player, Jake Guentzel, how much has he meant to this team this year?
He's like super consistent. So, I don't know a ton about baseball. I know enough to, follow along. And, I was certainly a huge fan growing up as a kid, but they talk about the 5-tool player, right? So Jake Guentzel, he may not be exceptionally gifted in any one area, but he's extremely good in all the areas. So he's just a model of consistency, son of a coach. I mean, there are a lot of sons of coaches who play in the NHL. Not all of them can do exactly what Jake Guentzel can do, but like he's always in the right place. Not every player always makes the right decision, but Guentzel is usually making the right decision. He has the ability to play with high skill players. He's played with Sidney Crosby. He played in Carolina with Sebastian Aho. He's played with Kucherov. So it's not nothing to be able to play with an extraordinarily gifted line mate, to know where to be, to make yourself available so that player can utilize his brilliance. So that's how I would describe Jake Guentzel. He's just so good in so many different ways and areas that it brings a consistency to his game that it's been throughout his career. Usually, not every year, but usually his goals and assists are very close. So, I mean, he can score, he can pass, he's been a great addition to the Lightning. He's also a terrific defensive forward. I mean, usually his plus minus number is very high, and it is again this year. So yes, the Lightning are very happy to have him in the fold. And he set a career high this year in points too, with one game left already.
It's been outstanding. And he said 1 game left here before you hit the playoffs. So we do reach the postseason now. It's here. You've been around this game, around this team for a number of years. What has to happen for this Lightning team here in the playoffs to get back to the cup one more time?
Well, it's round by round. So there are some general rules that I think typically apply to teams that go deep. One is you are able to avoid serious injury. And I mean, that's just luck of the draw. And it can happen with a couple of games left in the regular season that you have an injury that is, significant. It can happen in the playoffs. If you get injuries, you hope that either they're not significant, or if they are significant, they're to a position that you can somehow replace, right? Usually players are going to be banged up. The cup winner is always having players. You hear about the injury report afterward. Players are playing through stuff. But if you reach the point that you can't play, you have a broken arm or something like that, you're taking a huge piece out. That is part of it. You have to find a way to get the bounces. I mean, sometimes playoff games are decided by one play, overtime, bounce of a puck, being in the right place at the right time. So these are things that are just kind of like the karma, right? Like teams that go deep, it's like they're on the road, they're hitting the light, it's turning green, right? Like they get to go. And that's hard. It's hard to predict how that is going to unfold. That's not to imply, though, that the cup champion is winning by luck. So you have to do all of the other things well. You have to play at an extremely high level. You have to be executing at an extremely high level. You have to limit mistakes much as you can. Hockey is a game of mistakes. There are going to be mistakes. A mistake may lead to a scoring chance. Is that mistake that leads to a scoring chance going to be a devastating play against you in the game? Is the goalie going to bail you out? Is the other team going to fail to convert? The fewer mistakes you make, the fewer openings the opposition will have to hurt you. So I think a lot of that goes into it. For the Lightning, I mean, I think that they have been a really solid team this year. If you look at their main metrics, basically goals for per game, goals against per game, power play, penalty kill, and this 5-on-5 ratio, which is basically 5-on-5 goals scored divided by 5-on-5 goals against. You do not want that number to be under 1. If you are under 1, that means you are underwater. You are allowing more 5-on-5 goals than you are allowing. The Lightning have been second in that category this year, but they were right up there in all 5 of those categories last year and got bounced in the first round by Florida. So it's not always predictive of success, but generally the teams that do well in the playoffs are pretty good in a number of those metrics. You are scoring, you are defending, you are good 5-on-5, and your special teams are solid. And if you can do all of those things pretty well in the playoffs, you give yourself a chance to win. But again, you can't predict injuries. You can't predict the bounce of a puck. You're facing a team that's an excellent opponent. They have playmakers that are trying to make plays too. And that's why the NHL playoffs are what they are. I mean, they're so unpredictable and nerve-wracking, and you can't always assume what's going to happen from game to game, which is really the beauty of sports. But you can switch from offense to defense and defense to offense in the blink of an eye in hockey, which adds to the tension and the drama of each and every playoff game. I'm not sure if that was the answer that you were looking for, but I mean, for the Lightning to win a round, like they're facing Montreal. Montreal is one of the best first lines in the NHL. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Juraj Slafkovsky are 3 of the best players in the NHL. They one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL, Lane Hudson. That is a very challenging unit to face. So for the Lightning to have success in the series, you would think that one key would be to find a way to limit the damage that the Suzuki line can do to you, and try and basically, if you're not going to neutralize them completely, match what they are doing offensively. That is certainly one of the keys for any team that faces Montreal, and certainly the Lightning in this upcoming series.
Yeah, you've been there to see so many magical moments, and so here's wishes you get to see Lightning strike again, pun intended, here in these playoffs. Dave, good to talk with you, man. Really great to catch up, and hopefully again we can talk soon as we get into this postseason and Tampa Bay makes its run.
Anytime, Larry. Thanks for having me on.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks so much. Dave Mishkin, once again, he's the play-by-play man for the Tampa Bay Lightning, also hosted the Daily Power Lunch. If you just can't get enough, he's here to give you more. Dave Mishkin, good guy, veteran guy. He's seen it all, and he will be there on the call for Lightning here in this postseason. All right, more Sports IQ coming up next. Those old golf clubs sitting in your garage right now, there's a good chance they're worth real money. That driver you replaced, those irons you upgraded, even that putter collecting dust. Golf Roots lets you trade them in for cash or credit toward your next set. And right now, Sports IQ listeners get exclusive offers. Take $20 off any order over $100 with code SIQSALE, or get a 15% bonus on your trade-in value with code SIQ TRADE-IN. That means the clubs in your garage could be worth even more. Golf Roots is on a mission to make golf more accessible, offering high-quality, pre-owned name brand clubs for every skill level. And if you're just starting out, the Just the Roots starter set is one of the most affordable ways to begin, with full trade-in credit when you're ready to upgrade. So don't let your old gear sit there losing value. Go to golfroots.com and see how you can start or upgrade your golf journey today. Use code SIQSALE for $20 off, or SIQ TRADE-IN for 15% extra when you trade in your old clubs. That's golfroots.com. Golf Roots. Upgrade smarter.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Great to talk with Dave. Appreciate his thoughts. Hey, speaking of play-by-play guys, how about Mark Jones, our colleague over at ESPN, saying that he is signing off for the worldwide leader after 36 years. Of course, he was once upon a time a SportsCenter anchor. Recent years, has been one of the top play-by-play men in the game. Native of Canada, 64 years old, doesn't age, looks the exact same as when he started. Dude, what's your secret? Fountain of youth. But anyway, Mark Jones moving on, and it's disappointing because really enjoy his call, and hopefully we wish him well, whatever's next for him. WNBA, of course, we've talked about that. The draft was on Monday. How about the new look Chicago Sky? 2 years with Angel Reese. This wasn't working out. Still have Camila Cardoso there. But the big trade here, sending Ariel Atkins, the two-time All-Star, in trade with LA for Rickea Jackson, the former Tennessee Lady Vol star, has played 2 years for the LA Sparks. She now comes to Chicago. The Sky also signing veteran guard Skylar Diggins, who has been around for several years, a veteran presence, has been a star everywhere she's gone. And so now kind of a new look team up there with the Sky in the Windy City with Diggins, Jackson, again, Cardoso still there. Kind of excited to see what they're going to do there with that team in the post Angel Reese era. Interesting there. Baseball in its first month, and we know it's a long season, so we're going to pace ourselves here. But here at Sports IQ, we love it when we see anomalies in any given day. Last night was one of those days. 9 games decided by 1 run. And of those 9 games, 4 decided by a score of 2-1. If someone says pitching is dead in baseball, call them a liar and point to April 14th as proof. Yesterday, we told you about the offense of games played on Monday. Part of that story was the Orioles' 9-7 win over Arizona, led by Jeremiah Jackson. It just grand slam, 5 RBIs as well. Something else happened in that game. Orioles manager Craig Albanez took a foul ball directly to the face in the dugout, had to be helped to the locker room by the trainers. Albanez said Tuesday he suffered a fractured jaw and at least 7 fractures in his cheek. Yeah, all this from one ball. Good news is his jaw does not have to be wired, and he won't need surgery, but he will be on a soft food diet for at least 6 weeks. Albanez will continue to manage the Orioles while he recovers. Already back in the dugout Tuesday night. By the way, the O's, though, one of those one-run games we just talked about, 4-3. To the Diamondbacks. But get him some applesauce. Jello pudding. So yeah. Okay, we're going to talk college basketball transfers. The crazy offseason already. It's been nuts. We'll talk about that coming up next.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
877-927-3380. 877-927-3380. That's 877-927-3380.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to the show. We were talking a few moments ago about the college basketball transfer portal. Look, I mean, it's the new world, okay? And if you're one of those people going, this is just not the way it should be. Well, I'm with you, but I've stopped complaining because guess what? The toothpaste is out of the tube and ain't going back in. Let's get into the conversation about the transfer portal. Joining us right now from Hoops HQ and the portal report as well. Quentin Williams is here. Quentin, welcome to Sports IQ.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me this morning.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, you're a younger guy than we are, but the numbers being thrown out there right now, they shock us as old guys. Are you stunned at these aren't pro contracts? I mean, listen, some of these guys are making literally 20 times what they might make as a second round pick in the NBA, which they are not going to be.
That's very true. When I say I'm stunned, I definitely still am. I think just growing up and seeing the way that college basketball and college sports in general have taken off, even from my time as an adolescent child, is definitely very different. And even seeing posts on Instagram, maybe from ESPN, talking about a college basketball player as negotiating a deal or they've come to a contract extension or something like that. it's still crazy for me to see, and it's just the way that the college sport is going right now.
Yeah, we were talking at the top of the show about Michigan is now set the bar, right? As the first all transfer starting five to win the national title. And, we're somebody that when we see something, we go, oh, we can do that too. It appears Louisville is now going all in with their boosters. The big money, reportedly a total of $9 million spent on Sunday to get Flory Badunga from Kansas and the center, and Jackson Shellstad from Oregon. And it appears there's some rumors going to spend even more millions trying to get Wisconsin guard John Blackwell as well. Your thoughts on what Louisville's doing right now?
Yeah, so these are the two players that they've already gotten in Badunga and Shellstad are players that we've covered at Hoops HQ in the Portal Report. They made our top 50 transfer portals list. Very huge gets for the Cardinals. I think when you're talking about the sports being such a copycat environment, a copycat league, and you already alluding to Michigan's recipe to success. I think Louisville is just trying to copy that. They're trying to replicate that. And the way that you succeed in today's landscape of college basketball is through the transfer portal. So definitely getting Badunga, he'll be a solid anchor in the middle. And then Shellstad, who dealt with some hand injuries this past season for Oregon, he's definitely going to be a prominent guard for Louisville this year. And I think that they'll make some noise.
Yeah, he was a good player for Oregon. They didn't have a very good season this year, but that's a program that's been very successful. Final Four appearance in the last decade under Dana Altman, one of the better veteran coaches that probably doesn't get his due the way that he should. I guess, what are some other names that I know we're very early in this, and to explain again to everyone listening, with the transfer portal, the portal's open for 2 weeks. The players have 2 weeks to enter, not to make a decision. So this is not just because the portal will close next week doesn't mean we're going to stop hearing deals. That's going to go on for quite a while.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to hear some huge names come through. I think some names that come to mind for me are you have Juke Harris. He's probably one of the best guards that's left in the portal right now. We also have Paulius Maraskis from St. Mary's. He's a very lengthy forward who can definitely spread the floor, stretch the floor for a team and help them succeed. We've even seen Dylan Darling, the former Big Sky Player of the Year. He hit the game winner for St. John's in the Sweet 16. He just entered the transfer portal, leaving Rick Pitino and us at St. John's. There's really a plethora of players that I think are going to transfer to new teams and make a big impact. But I think there's also been an influx of players who are maybe maternally transferring and kind of ruining their stock. I feel like nowadays, with a lot of money involved, there's a lot of players who maybe aren't chasing the best fit, but chasing the biggest check. And so I think that's also been another problem that has occurred with the rise of the transfer portal as well.
And I think that's an issue too, that, like you said, you're looking at the dollars. And that's one thing where, regardless of how accurate his quote was, when Yaxel Lindeborg last month talked to the Associated Press about the flirtation with Kentucky and UK actually offering, in his words, $7 to $9 million. He said he took less money to go to Michigan, only, my air quotes here, $5 million, because he said Dusty May talked about improving him, that kind of thing, and Kentucky did not. Kentucky fans and BBN, they kind of balked at that. But when you spend $22 million on a roster of guys that the average fan couldn't pick out of a phone book, with all due respect to those guys, is it really a stretch? They might offer him $7. No, it's not a stretch in my mind. It's not a stretch. But I think that's the thing too. I think for players to be smart and say, I'll take less money, but because I think this team A has a chance to go deep, or they have a better chance to develop me to get to the next level.
Definitely. And I think just kind of speaking a little bit more to that, with the rise of the transfer portal, with NIL being so involved, you've got donors, you've got a lot of contributions, donations, and things like that. I think that's just the way that this sport is heading, where for some players, it will be the perfect fit, the perfect coach. And for others, it will be, where can I get my biggest check? Because as you've spoken about, some of these players aren't going pro. So now that college sports is kind of basically pro, this is where that they're making their bag.
Yeah, no question. It appears right now in the first week, Indiana and Texas making probably some of the biggest moves early on here. What other teams you've been impressed in terms of, we've talked about Louisville, of course, already. with what they have done here in the first few days of the portal?
I think another team that I've been impressed with is Houston. This has been a NCAA tournament regular, and they've got Dean Thomas Jr. He landed on our number 9 rank for Hoops HQ in the Portal Report's top 50 transfer portal list. And I think he'll be an amazing guard in the backcourt for them. Another team that I've also been impressed with has been, I would probably say, Providence. I think getting Miles Bird, an athletic guard / forward from San Diego State, definitely been good for them, and just trying to make any type of noise that they can in the Big East, which is heavily dominated by St. John's and UConn.
Yeah. About that, when it comes to money, we were talking in Indianapolis at the Final Four a couple of weeks ago about how long can UConn sustain this without without football dollars, right? I mean, the Big East is really a football only conference. Basketball only conference. There's really no major football there. How long can they do this without those kinds of dollars there on campus?
I'm going to say not long. I feel like if the football aspect, if those dollars start heading towards their football program, then I think that the disparity will shrink. But like you said, the Big East is mainly, when you think of the Big East, you think of mainly basketball. I feel like for right now, especially with college football, I don't think anyone's worried about UConn football right now. But in the future, you never know where their football program could head. I think that if their football program starts to become a little bit more prominent, then Dan Hurley might lose some. He might lose some dollars over there.
Yeah, it just seems like we heard Mike Krzyzewski a few weeks ago talk about, kind of floated the idea of an ACC Big East merger. It would seem that might behoove both conferences to do that. But again, we will see what comes of that. The elephant in the room here. There are some teams whose names we have not talked about. Mm-hmm. Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, UCLA, North Carolina, the Blue Bloods. Mm-hmm. Talk about how this is really even the playing field, where we've got Louisville making moves, Indiana, Texas. We've talked about Providence. Illinois got the kid that is a top 10 in the Vox kid, 6'7" kid that was highly sought after. It appears Florida's in for the sharpshooter from Iowa State if he stays in college. Mm-hmm. The game has changed. How can the Blue Bloods stay relevant when everyone has millions to offer and facilities, etc.?
And I think you just touched on this. With the playing field being even, with the rise of NAL, with a lot of people having access to these funds, the Blue Bloods name is kind of being watered down a little bit. I think we've seen some college coaches speak about this as well, with saying that Blue Bloods are kind of dead. I wouldn't say they're dead. I would just say that it's kind of like you said, the playing field's even and that everyone has a fair shot now. So I don't think we're going to see in the past like we have the Dukes of the world, the Kentuckys of the world, just simply dominate like they have in terms of not only NIL, but recruitment as well. But with other teams having this type of access to funds, upgrading their facilities, being able to attract different types of players, the top players aren't all just going to go team up now. They're going to go they're going to go branch out to different teams. They're going to visit different areas. They're going to come and collect some different types of checks that they can from other types of schools, and it just won't be dominated by the top schools. But with respect to, the Dukes of the world, the UCLAs, the Kentuckys of the world, I think that they will forever, because of their rich history, be prominent, and they're still going to attract the top players in the country every year. I would not be surprised if, Duke in the next even 10, 15, 20 years is still picking up number 1 overall recruits, because the history that they have, the alumni strength that they have to attract these players is still going to be there. But like you said, the playing field has definitely been even. And I think, and hopefully we're going to see more and more new teams that we haven't quite seen in the NCAA tournament or the NCAA in general dominate and make noise, because I think it's better when it's not the same teams winning every year.
Yeah, and we've had that. UConn obviously 3 times the Final Four, Houston repeat trips. Duke repeat trips. Otherwise, everyone else, it's just been one and done in terms of Final Fours. But again, 20 different teams have done that. We've talked about certainly the way that is. Indiana is a year removed from its 40th anniversary since its last title. It does feel like Duke will still be there, but even in Kentucky right now, you talk to some Kentucky fans, they're concerned that if they don't get this thing turned around next couple of years, they're going to look up and be Indiana. I mean, I've had that actually said to me. There's no question. Got about a couple of minutes here very quickly. I want to get your thoughts. A team like Notre Dame losing 4 or 5 players have gone into the portal. How can a team sustain those kinds of losses year in, year out and still be competitive, even in the era of the transfer portal?
So, yeah, I think this is where your recruiting still has to be, it comes into play. This is where you still, as a coach, as a program, still need to be able to recruit and develop players. We've seen a lot of college coaches talk about how mainly teams are going through the transfer portal now. You're kind of getting 1 or 2 year rentals on players and then they're just leaving. But with the rise of the transfer portal, that's where most of the hot commodities will be. But I do believe that there's still something good. There's still diamonds in developing high school players. They may not be ready in 1 year. And I know with some of the best players that come straight out of high school, if they're good, they're doing 1 year and they're off to the NBA or off to the pros. And I understand that, but I do think that there still is something to be found in recruiting and developing players. So for a team like Notre Dame, for teams that are losing a lot of starters, I think that's something that they need to truly focus on, because when you're getting these 1 or 2 year rentals, your program can't really develop.
Yeah, I've got 30 seconds left. Are we seeing now maybe a new upper crust of basketball where there's a new 20, 25 teams that are going to be there every year, year in, year out? It's probably different than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Of course. And I actually do think we are. And I can't say I'm not happy with the disparity. I do like new teams coming and competing. I like to see new programs, new coaches shine. So, yeah, I would say we are.
Yeah, it's a fun time right now. Hey, Quentin, listen, great to get your insights on this. You guys do a great job over at Hoops HQ. And, man, good luck with the rest of this season. We'll reach out again soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
You got it, man. Quentin Williams joining us once again, Hoops HQ. Also, the Portal Report doing a great job as we're talking and trying to make sense of this college basketball transfer portal right now. Still a lot of names to decide. Again, more than 1,000 names are in it, and most of them have not found a school. So strap in. Your school's still talking to somebody, somewhere. We guarantee it. All right, more to come after this.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You gotta call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
Call 855-227-0286. That's 855-227-0286. Call us right now.
Another story we saw on Front Office Sports, Kansas City, the Royals are a step closer, producer Tony, to getting a baseball stadium, $1.9 billion. It's a downtown location they're talking about, not far from Union Station. This isn't surprising, I guess. Once the Chiefs went over to Kansas and were wooed by a $3 billion deal without any money out of their own pocket, I mean, who wouldn't take that deal? Clearly, the Missouri side of Kansas City, the two cities, they've said, hey, we better do something to make sure we keep the Royals from jumping over there as well. And they're going, in the city. And you can guarantee part of this is going to be some kind of retail component as well, because the new thing with stadiums, they want this neighborhood, this entertainment complex that they can also make money when they're not playing in the off season, like we've seen in other places, Cincinnati, Atlanta, St. Louis, San Diego, and other places.
Yeah, I mean, we all know why these cities want to do it. Of course, you get to keep the team, which is this, an area of pride. All right, you want to be known as the Kansas City Royals, so you want them there in Kansas City. You get to keep the income from that. The tax base helps, all of that. But the people of Kansas City end up paying. Look, $1.9 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah,
where is that money coming from? Is it from other taxes? Is you going to increase the hotel tax there in Kansas City another penny or two? That's where a lot of cities wind up getting that money. They increase those kind of taxes that out-of-towners pay. But do the people of Kansas City get to not have their taxes increased because of this? That's a key thing. And plus, when you're a small market team like Kansas City, how many times are you going to be competitive in a decade? If you hit on some young talent, you keep them together, great. But we all know teams like Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, they're not going to be able to compete in the long term because these players aren't going to stay there. They're going to follow the biggest dollars, and the biggest dollars are going to come from LA, Chicago, and New York. And that's what we're seeing in baseball. It's just the name of the game. Places like Tampa and Kansas City can't compete year in and year out. They can from time to time. But are you as a fan willing to shell out season tickets for a team that's going to lose 95 or 100 games?
Right.
I know I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And the ticket prices are just so crazy right now. We look at the Chiefs deal, what they got. That was one that not only the $3 billion domed stadium, but also another $1 billion for a team practice facility and headquarters in Olathe nearby. So that's the Chiefs deal. Now, of course, like you said, now comes the Royals deal. And we're seeing this in so many places. The one thing with the Dome Stadium that's attractive is that, and we just were discussing this 2 weeks ago in Indianapolis, that now you get a chance to host college football playoff games and college football championships and Final Fours and all those things that bring in big revenue are going to bring in a lot of money. Nashville's building a stadium, Cleveland, a dome stadium, Washington, it's underway as well. Buffalo opens their new open air stadium. They're going to keep with that this year. Some other places, Chicago, they're in perpetual negotiations with both Illinois and Indiana. So who knows what's happening there. Denver has a deal in place for a new football stadium. San Antonio for a new arena. Cincinnati's discussing $700 million to Paycor Stadium for the Bengals. It's big money. You're right. But you wonder at some point, how much can you keep taxing local people, be it hotel tax, property tax, whatever?
Well, that's the key thing is when do these cities reach maximum density, right? You may be hungry and you love a buffet. At some point, you got to step away, or something ruptures, right? It gets ugly. It's the same way with these tax situations. At some point, the tax base is going to go, I can't afford any more, period. End of story. So when that happens, then what happens to these franchises and all of the things that go with them? That's the hard part about all this. Yeah, you want to have the nicest and the best and the brightest stadium, but there's also some charm to Fenway. There's charm to Wrigley. There's charm to these older places, and maybe that's just baseball. But football, you have very few of those stadiums. The only one I can really think of is Green Bay that has that old world charm, that old feel to it. So that's kind of the nostalgia that you lose when you keep building these new stadiums.
Yeah, even new Soldier Field is one that just every time I see it, I cringe because I think of what it was growing up, what it looked like, and just how they really kind of ruined it. So again, Front Office Sports reporting, by the way, $1.9 billion, so that up to $600 million in city funding. and that's back, and that'll be backed by tax revenue generated at the stadium. So and again, the surrounding mixed-use development, talking about that as well. So it appears there's still another $1 billion going to come from somewhere. We'll see what happens. By the way, one other very quick note when I get in, final round of the Masters on Sunday, 14 million viewers, the network's most watched Masters final round since 2015. So we talked yesterday about no Tiger, no Phil, no problem if you're CBS and the Masters. Pretty cool there. All right, our moment of all is up next.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
Okay, time now for a moment of all. This one's pretty easy. On this date back in 1947, Jackie Robinson making history, breaking Major League Baseball's color barrier by becoming the first African-American player to play in the majors, of course, making his debut with the Brooklyn Dodgers. Short career, just played for a decade, and died way too early in 1972. But Jackie Robinson, his legacy lives on. His number 42 retired throughout Major League Baseball. But on this day, you'll see all players wearing it in his honor and tribute to what he endured and what he went through. The door for so many players since then, in the decade since. Jackie Robinson, truly an American legend, gets our moment of awe. Thanks so much to our guests stopping by today. We appreciate you as well. Make it a great day here on this Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.